Hi viewers, welcome back to this JavaScript tutorial series. Today I'll be teaching you about scope. So what is JavaScript scope? Is really the focus of today's tutorial. So JS scope. Let me make this capital as by convention, as it is by convention. So JavaScript scope. So simple terms, if someone tells you to define JavaScript scope, how would you do it? So JS scope really refers to the extent of the accessibility accessibility of a given variable within within your JS code. Yeah. So that what it means. How, to what extent can a variable be accessed within the JavaScript code? Where can it be accessed and where can it be accessed? So simple terms is where in the JS code one can access a variable or cannot access it. For any given manipulation. Yeah, so really this is a definition, but that's in simple terms what it means. If you have a variable, let me say const gender, and we're going to say gender is male. Let's give a string of male. So for this tutorial, just to back up a little bit, I've already prepared an HTML document, which is this one that we're going to be using for illustration. And I have two buttons here. This button, define your gender, is right here. We're going to create a function called define your gender. And then we have the second button, check his age, which is going to be used to invoke a function called define his age. So let me now write this function. Function define, it's called define your gender. Define your gender. It's this function that we're going to invoke using this first button. So let's just console log. Let's log to the console. My gender is, then I'll give my variable as a second argument, gender. Okay, so this const gender, the variable gender, has what they call global scope. Global scope is where you write a variable outside a given function, outside a function, and most times you write it at the top, usually at the beginning lines of your code, right? So it is not nested within any function or any conditional statement. It is just at the top of your code usually. And then you access that variable within a function or later on within, let me say, conditional statement or any other part of your JavaScript. But we call it having global scope, whereby it can be accessed in any part or in any function or any conditional statement, any loop, anything in your JavaScript can have access to your if anything that you write in your JavaScript can have access to your variable, then it is global. For example, if I now if I just go to the console right here, click on the console here. If I invoke my function, I should see that my gender is male, right? Gender is male. I can access it within this function. If, let me say, I write another function what is your gender? All right, your gender. And I said console log. Say again, my gender is gender. So now let me invoke this function. Let me just copy this here and paste it and replace it with this, so that the same button can be used to invoke it. So you can see that we're accessing the gender variable again within a different function. So it is global, because if I click on this button, define your gender, I'm literally running this function. This is what I'm invoking, and still I'm able to access gender within a different function. So global scope. Let me just note it here. Global scope. Let's say this variable has global scope. So this variable has global scope, right? We can access it in any part of our code. That's what it means by having global scope. Now I'm going to, the next is called local scope. If a variable does not have global scope, it has local scope. And for that, I'll create another function. Function define is age, maybe. Yes, let's use this function here, which is going to be invoked by the second button. D here. Define is age. Let me log to the console.log. His age is, okay, so to give a variable local scope, you need to define it, you need to declare it within a function or a conditional statement or a loop, but it's supposed to be enclosed within a higher order enclosure or a function. That's what I could call it. It's supposed to be enclosed within something in your code. So say const his age. Let me give it 80. So his age is, okay. So if I clicked on check his age, I should see it right here. His age is 80, right? So this variable age, his age, has local scope. I cannot access it anywhere else, right? So for example, if I said here console.log his age, already I see an error here. So every time I make a change within my JavaScript code, one thing you should know is that automatically there's a reload. It reloads here, the HTML page reloads. And you see, once it reloads, I see an error. His age is not defined. It's because his age, this variable his age, is declared within a function, which is defining his age. So I cannot access it anywhere outside this function. So that means that this variable has local scope. Let me say variable his age only has local scope and can only be accessed within this function. Yeah, so we have two types of scope. We have global scope and local scope. If a variable has local scope, it can only be accessed within that function and cannot be accessed anywhere else in the code. Okay. The other way, maybe to show the difference, is that I can say console.log here. Another way to show a difference is gender. You can see if I comment this out, I can see gender. I can access gender, right? It is global. I can access it anywhere within the code. I can access it in the code lines, just as here on line 22. I can access it in any function, as you can see in this define your gender function. I can also access it in another function, different function. What is your gender function? So once something has global scope, you can access it anywhere. Once it is defined within the function, you can only access it within that function. And if I uncomment this out, I'll get an error here. I'll see male here. Male, I can access it, but his age, I cannot access it outside this function of define his age, right? So I can only access it if I invoke this function in which it is defined. Yeah, so this marks the end of this tutorial, this short tutorial. It was really basically to show you the differences between scope, global scope, or local scope. Those are the two types of scope in JavaScript. That's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.